Happy Halloween, everybody. We are recording live Halloween. So
I was just
Tim,
giving you some sound effects.
listen, Tim Stafford is in the best mood. We're going to get him all year. It's on
right.
Halloween Day.
It's my actual birthday.
And to honor that, I wore a pumpkin spice flannel. Now, if pumpkin spice lattes, which we all make fun of, particularly here in Franklin, Tennessee, where pumpkin spice is a way of life, this flannel would be pumpkin spice. I mean, it's got the perfect blends of, and I don't normally obviously wear flannels, but I had to go to a studio today. Well, I was being interviewed on Preston Sprinkle's podcast, and so. And it's a full shot. It's not just a Riverside shot. And it's it was in person. Ooh. And so, yeah, I was like, I'm going to introduce this man to pumpkin spice latte flannel. And so I said, I want to keep it on for Stafford because I'm dressing up as a man for whom fashion is important. That's my costume today. That's my costume. Give me your Halloween plans, bro. I mean, what's happening?
I mean, my wife ripped up most of our yard to replant all this stuff. We just open our house up every Halloween at like 5 p.m.
Yep.
We'll have about 70 something people. We do chili, a couple different pots of chili.
Yes.
There's a contest, and not a real contest, but they've deemed it a contest. Okay. So who has the best chili? And then we just go trick or treating out of our back gate.
I mean, neighborhood. Yeah, it's perfect.
It is.
And do you have a costume at the ready, my friend? I don't know if we've spent a lot of time discussing it, but
nope, it's simple. I made those 2 Halloween records under that pseudonym Beowulf. It was like a werewolf, and I had the mask and everything. I'm gonna be him.
Beowulf.
Yep.
I mean, dear Voxology listener, to the dozens listening, Tim Stafford, you don't want to go digging into this guy's past. Let's just Beowulf. Yes. Because there are 2 wolves that live inside of us, Virginia Woolf and Beowulf. And so
I'm somewhere right in the middle.
Yes. So dear Voxology listener, thank you. Okay, just the emails, the questions, the kind support on Patreon and Tidely, overwhelming. We're so stinking grateful. To those of you who have listened for 10 years, I don't even know what to say. We're sorry. Thank you. God bless you. Tim, we got a full day today.
All right.
It's a Halloween episode. And so this is new, but Seth Erie doesn't have school. So I didn't know that Halloween was a school off holiday. So congratulations. It's about time. And we've made a couple appearances as Christoph, or as I call him, Christ of. Oh. And so I don't know. He's not in the mood to trick or treat. He's like, I want to just sit home up in my room and play with floppies and watch music. And so we'll probably do that. Yeah, exactly. I bought a little fire pit. I thought maybe we'll start a fire in the driveway. Welcome the neighbors. He's like, nope, not interested. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. So we will timestamp this moment right here because this week in Christian nationalism begins now. Josh Howerton. I don't know who this person is other than he has a following, which, so say we all, wrote the following: pastor friends, all right, to pastors. If you have been a neither right nor left / pastors should make direct applications to voting guy, you need to decide what your red line moment is. One party, Democrat, just in case we weren't sure, is electing jihad-friendly, max boost infant murder, trans the kids, promote queer sex, Muslim communists who hate and oppose Christianity with all their might. Everywhere this party is in power, evil disproportionately advances, and the accomplishment of the Great Commission gets exponentially harder.
Hmm.
And the other party just finished hosting the most viewed explicitly Christian evangelistic event in human history. Yes, pastors should be finding ways to make it explicitly clear to the people, at bare minimum, there's one way faithful Christians cannot vote. And he adds in parentheses, just in case we missed it, left. So there you go. God has endorsed one party, and we've all known that. Here's Ligonier Ministries was founded by a guy named R.C. Sproul, who I knew back in the day. And here's a guy who, under that imprint, has published the book King of Kings, a reformed guide to Christian government. And he tweeted out that picture of that book with the following headline: Government must promote Christianity as the only true religion. Okay, so there's that. Then we have a tweet defending the colonization of the church on all of the native peoples back in the day. You can't fulfill the Great Commission without colonization. The great lie was that gospel is spiritual only work. I agree with that. That is a lie. But the following implication does not follow. But we are quickly learning that if we don't colonize for Christ, we will be colonized by Muslims. Wow. If we don't make Christianity our national religion, Islam or Hinduism will be our national religion. If we don't legislate and politicize, we will be legislated and politicized by pagans. The gospel is colonization, all of Christ for all of life.
That was Jesus, or?
Yeah, that sounds a lot like the end of Matthew. Absolutely. So those are three examples of well-known Christians, at least known Christians, I don't know how well, but arguing pretty explicitly against how we would understand the kingdom and how the church works. And then just because I hadn't, a buddy of mine bought the God Bless the USA Bible.
Ironically, or?
Yes, ironically. And so I was just curious what $59.99 or $99.99 gets you.
That's how much it costs.
Yes. So my only option is to do this humorously. But I do want to say that there could not be like a bigger point of blasphemy than this. So just the Bible also features, it's King James, large print. Obviously they know their audience. The Bible also features a copy of the handwritten chorus to God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of freaking Allegiance. Okay? Insane. Then you have so that's just the bare bones edition. All right, that's $59.99.
Okay.
Then you have the veteran edition Bible, which just has God Bless the USA on top of it, commemorating the brave men and women who have defended the freedom of the United States of America. So that's $99. Then we have the presidential edition commemorating, and it's just all I can figure out is just it's a different like cover. Presidential edition of the Holy Bible, commemorating the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Under that is Holy Bible. Under that is God Bless the USA with the presidential seal of Donald Trump.
That's insane.
I mean, it gets better. We have the Platinum Edition Bible, $99.99. And that is the same. It's just a different color. It's the same commemoration. Here we have the Vice Presidential Edition, commemorating the 50th Vice President of the United States of America, J.D. Vance. And not to leave anyone out, we have the First Lady Edition, $99.99, commemorating the First Lady of the United States of America, Melania Trump. There is one other option, and that is hold on a second. before we get to that last option, we've got Seth Thomas Charles Erie, who is holding up his iPad with our YouTube page promoted. And Seth listens to all the episodes. Absolutely. Seth, here, grab one of my earbuds. All right. And Seth, you've got some stuff to say. After our 10-year anniversary, Seth wanted to say some stuff. So stand over here. Don't touch the microphone. Okay? Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Seth Erie, you are back.
Yep. My boy is back.
My boy is back. Here, let me get that. We got some snot coming out of that nose. We're going to make you nice and shiny for YouTube. There we go. Perf.
Wow.
Perf.
Wow.
All right, bro. All right, come in right here on my daddy's shoulder. There it is.
Right.
All right. What do you want to say today?
We have one more orders today.
You have orders today.
Yes.
Okay, give the orders.
We have the
Bethany Shea. We didn't shout out Bethany Shea last episode, so we need to do that.
Big shout out to Big Nate.
Big shout out to Big Nate.
Tim Stafford.
Yep, Tim Stafford. I mean,
we
obviously.
got Bonnie
Lewis, absolutely.
Susie Peeman.
Susie Peeland, absolutely.
And Andy Bear.
Andy Bear,
And
yep.
Dr. Garbus.
Dr. Gombas, nice. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. People we left out. Way to go, Seth. Way to go, Seth. He talked to me we were just out at lunch, and he was just telling me he's going to bring his iPad, and he's got orders. And I think that's what he calls the announcement.
He's got orders. Who gave the orders?
Yeah.
Or he's giving the orders.
Exactly.
Got it.
And if $99.99 doesn't seem like enough to pay, there is the President Donald J. Trump Signature Edition Bible for $1,000.
Whoa.
So you open the cover. It says, "May God bless you always, President Donald J. Trump." So if anybody wants to say that, this isn't a big deal, this is not a problem, this isn't something we should concern ourselves with, I want to use cuss words just to describe this. I like literally the word blasphemy, the word idolatry. Those aren't.
There's nothing you can say. It's literally like this is peak.
There it is. There it is. There it is. The founding documents of our country attached to the Bible, and then even on the cover, President Trump's name is
you cannot.
Greater.
This
for
is like a really,
$1,000.
really, really bad Onion article or a really bad SNL skit. They'd be like, "That's over the top, guys. Like, this is not close to reality." $1,000 just to have him sign it. It's just, he can't. There's nothing you can say.
Nope. So we've got the case for Christian government. We've got pastors. The only faithful way to vote is to the right. Look at all the harm the left is doing. God bless the USA Bible. I mean, that's a pretty good week. That's a solid work week. And the reason I was looking at the Trump Bibles, there was a picture of him in the Oval Office signing some. So evidently they need more. Now, what I want to do in response every time we sort of name some of this insanity is I want to hold that up to sober teaching that recognizes that this is a problem. And the Holy Post, I don't know, last year convened a group of people who have some sort of influence, scholars, authors, influential voices, and me. And there was a guy there, and I didn't write his name down, which is so dumb, but he wrote an article that was called Christian Witness in the Public Square in 2024. And I'm not going to disperse this article if you want it. I'm just going to quote from sections of it, only because I don't know who wrote it. I just know it wasn't me, and so this is not original. But in it, he distinguished, I thought he made a really important distinction. He said, if by Christian nation we mean that the U.S. should be a nation of Christians through evangelism, then most evangelical Christians would say, sure, that's a good thing. Historically, this would also mean a nations whose laws are generally non-sectarian, pluralistic, protect liberty for all, and consistent with natural law. So you can have a nation of people who are voting as Christians that would still respect religious freedom and so on. And most of us would say, yeah, absolutely. If the church lived such a compelling existence that flocks of people came to Christ through that, so that the majority of the country were Christians, and by Christians we mean like actual Jesus type people, we'd be a fan. So he calls that type 1 Christian nationalism, like diabetes type 1.
Diabetes.
Yes. And then number 2, that the view that Christianity should be actively privileged above other religions, that uniquely Christian commands should be enshrined in law, that the U.S. has a unique role in world history like that of the nation of Israel, and that Christians should use coercive power to impose these beliefs, since these decisions have eternal consequence. And type 2, and so I want to go through that list again. That's a really significant list, right? So type 2, Christianity should be actively privileged above, which is what we just read, other religions. That uniquely Christian command should be enshrined in law, like abortion would be an example of that. Although you could debate how uniquely Christian that is or whatever. That the U.S. has a unique role in world history like that of the nation of Israel. And that Christians should use coercive power to impose beliefs because these decisions have eternal consequence, but also the future of our country is at stake. So he distinguishes between type 1 and type 2. Now, the argument he makes is that people who would be normally comfortable with type 1 see the fact that Christianity is losing ground in terms of cultural privilege, or in terms of influence, or in terms of numbers. And so they flip to type 2 because the urgency is so great. So they don't know how to be type 1 Christians, which means through evangelism and the winsomeness of corporate witness. They don't know how to be a minority, that we don't know how to be on the edges of culture. We don't know how to be in the margins. And so because of that, we, through fear, shift to type 2. That's his big suggestion, which I thought had some merit to it. And typically this is done because of fear. You and I were looking at some numbers around how the liberals have overreached and provoked kind of a backlash among the electorate. And I can understand why people would be fearful of some of the things that included in the overreach. But there is another position between type 1 and type 2 that we've been trying, to explore. Type 2 isn't the only thing to do when you're afraid. And so he goes through this list, and I don't necessarily agree with how he articulates some things, but I want to go through the list briefly as just another way of talking through the difference between the type 2 thing that we're seeing and biblical and factual teaching. And by factual, I mean historical. So, like, for instance, he says the syncretistic view out there is that America is uniquely Christian. He says the historically orthodox / accurate view is that America was historically majority Christian, and as such, at times demonstrated Christian values, but so did the UK, Rome, and others. So not uniquely. The syncretistic view, America is a nation chosen by God like Israel. His counter to that is America is a nation state, not the chosen people of God with a unique divine covenant. America is closer biblically to the Roman Empire than Israel. And that some people don't want to hear. Syncretistic view, America should enact laws that are Christian. His response, Christianity should not be imposed by the government, but Christians should be active in the government and advocate for laws that reflects God's goodwill for all creation. Totally. I just like how he's naming the one and then giving the other. Mm-hmm. So there's several of these we'll just go through. And again, the point of this is just reminding, inoculating, immunizing us against some of the stuff that's out there.
This is taking your weekly anti-Christian
yes,
vitamin.
Yes.
Take your vitamins, or what did Hogan used to say? Say your prayers, eat your vitamins.
Is that what he said?
Hulk Hogan? Yeah, in the 80s. That was his big thing when he came to the ring. Hey, kids.
Oh.
Hey, brother.
That's funny.
Say your prayers,
there are
eat your
worse things. There are worse pieces of advice. America and the church are the same. His counter, America is a nation state, while a nation state, while the church is a community of people called out by God. They have very different roles, and America does not have a special relationship with God like the church does. Every time we get this confused, it hurts the church and hurts people. Christianity should be privileged by the government at the expense of other religions. I mean, literally, you could not go down the list of just stuff we read. His response, Christianity should have religious freedom the same way every other religion has. And we should respect the religious beliefs of others. And he gives the example of Paul in Athens in Acts 17. Out of love and charity for neighbor, along with self-interested wisdom. In other words, we can't promote a double standard, religious freedom for us, but not for them. But then, so he calls that self-interested wisdom. But the other side is nowhere does Jesus compel belief. Nowhere does he coerce belief. Not at all a part of his project. And in fact, he resists attempts to do so. America is a Christian nation. That's the syncretistic view. His response, America is a diverse nation that has a majority of its citizens who claim to be Christian. America was founded by Christians, syncretistic view. America was founded by many leaders, many of whom were Christian, but several of the most prominent were not. America was built on Christian ideals. We hear this all the time. America was built on many ideals that were based on or consistent with Christian ideals, but not all. The 1/3 compromise, for example. It combined biblical values with current thinking of the time, political compromises, and Enlightenment philosophies. And as we've talked about, it was based on the assumption of classic liberalism, which are themselves called into question by the kingdom of God. Syncretistic view, Christians should do whatever it takes to win since our opponents don't play fair. Response, we are to follow God's command in every area of our life. Our weapons are not of this world. We're to love our enemies. We do not repay evil for evil. Our response should look more like Jesus than Nietzsche. We build God's kingdom through laws and politics. Response, God builds God's kingdom through the church. We get to participate with him. Politics, particularly in a democracy, is downstream of culture. Culture is downstream of evangelism and discipleship by the church. Two more. We must protect our children's faith through laws and school systems. That's a big one you've been dealing with. School laws, this is his response, and other civil institutions can certainly impact children's formation. But far more important is the depth of the parents' faith and the discipleship work that they do together with the church. There is little that prevents parents from discipling their kids other than effort, though the culture isn't helping. If the church can disciple their kids in pagan Rome, we certainly can. Bro, that's so good. We should be afraid because culture is degrading so fast and things are getting so anti-God, persecution is coming. His response, we don't live in fear. God has triumphed through the cross and resurrection. Love is the primary driver of our actions. Persecution may or may not happen. Christians can advocate for religious liberty. We are still the largest religion by far, and there are strong legal protections. But no matter what, we still show God's love rather than hurt others out of fear. And I thought that is a great summary of, and I would articulate a couple of things differently, although this person's much smarter than I, and he wouldn't care how I would articulate it differently. I just thought every week we're going to sit in the middle of this and we're just going to say, this is not okay. This is not normal. It's not okay. We are not crazy to be upset by this. Our behavior is still circumscribed by the Sermon on the Mount. However, we should actively resist and invite others into active postures of resistance. And so one of our postures is just going to be naming the nonsense. And because I think you and I, as like all of us, I mean, we get numb, we get tired, we get weary. For mental health's sake, we have to back off or focus elsewhere. And so I just want to have just a little dose every episode of, hey, this is what people are saying and they mean it. the culture war for them is it's all hands on deck, and it has to be won. And your faithfulness to Jesus is now tied to your political view. So, and maybe that's been true before. I don't doubt that it's been true before, but holy moly. Anything you want to add there, Chef Boyardee?
I think the church needs an enema.
You know what? That's the name of the autobiography of the Vox podcast, right?
I was telling my therapist, I think I texted this to you, that like she had to remind me, or she just said point blank, she's like, I just want to tell you that you're not God. And I said, thank you. But she's been trying to dig. One of the things she's doing in therapy is trying to dig through my psyche to figure out at what point did people put that pressure on me to feel like you have to be the person that saves all of these different things. And so I gave her the analogy that it's like we're all putting our fingers in a dam that's cracking, and we're trying to keep it, because if it breaks, if the water comes out, there's like a lower socioeconomic village that will be flooded if the levee breaks. And so we're all sitting here trying to put our fingers in these cracks to stop the break and stop the water, while there's a bunch of people water skiing above and having fun and doing all this stuff. And then everyone's yelling at me, take your fingers out of the cracks, let it break. Like it's not your job to keep the dam there, let it break. But I'm like, if it breaks, all these people die. And so I was like, this is the best version I can think of with the conundrum that I find. So what you just said, like what our posture should be, is a very three-dimensional posture. But I feel like this conversation is consistently two-dimensional. And we have to be creative. Like this is where all the years that you've been advocating for mystery and like curiosity and creativity in how we relate to God and how we relate to our neighbors, I think this is the time for me to say, like, I need to be as creative and as patient and as humble and all those things as possible, because like the first list of stuff that you went through, that stuff's insane. Like to even go 10 years ago and say there will be a president of the United States selling $1,000 Bible that he has autographed with the Constitution, all the stuff in it. Like I would have said that's so far-fetched. The church would never stand for that. Like that is as close as we've gotten to a golden calf as I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But here we are. And it's like, I don't want to go tit for tat. Like we have these conversations about Gavin Newsom's Twitter account and how he keeps trying to emulate Trump with like the all caps, dumb language. And I'm just like, I hate that so much. I understand why he's doing it. And maybe that's what the Democrats need to do. I don't know, but I don't want to posture myself that way as a member of the kingdom of God. No, that's not anything against what he's doing. I don't think we're called to play the game this way, but we keep trying to play it this way. So I don't know what to do about the dam. I don't know how to keep it from breaking. I don't know if you run away from the cracks fast enough to try to help that entire village move. I don't know what it is, but I know that we're dangerously close to the dam breaking. And I'm not sure what we do with that information. So I appreciate the list you just read, like a type 1 or type 2. I'm like, I think we need a version Q, not a type.
Yeah, I'm actually not either of those.
Yeah. I think we need to be more creative and stop playing by the binaries that were offered.
Totally. A buddy of mine was joking around. He's like, how in the world would you have a nation of Christians? I don't even know how to have a family of Christians, let alone
100% right.
I thought, that's true. Yeah. I think that all of that is the wrong goal. Yeah. And so, this is where the Anabaptist sort of being faithful is more important than being effective thing really like fleshes out strong for me.
It's like you're living out of that hope that you talk about. That's what faithful is. Faithful is effective if effectiveness is not the goal.
Correct. That's it. The minute you make effectiveness the goal, you've compromised it. Yeah. Is the cross effective? Yes and no. It was effective, right? I mean, was it effective? Obviously, it accomplished salvation, but good Lord, it took people years to figure that out. I mean, what in the world? So So anyway, Tim, you speak. I will always just say you speak so well for so many. There are people resonating with the prayer stuff that you're like wrestling with. We got a question in if we can transition to that.
Yeah.
That I want to explore, and then we have a dear listener who just right before we went on emailed in and was saying, I'm with Tim on the prayer stuff. You know, we had something bad happen to a nephew of ours, and to think that had we just prayed right before it happened, it wouldn't have. Like that's God would only stop it unless we like
petition
did something. Yeah.
It's like, you didn't file in time.
Then how are you? Yeah, exactly. Like how are we not paralyzed by the idea? It's another form of voodoo. I have to pray for traveling mercies every time I get in the car.
Yesterday I got hit by my car broke down again. And it was right after I signed a contract for new windows. And I just had one of those days where I felt like the walls were closing in. And I found that my initial thought in the back of my head was, what did I do wrong? Like to deserve God's punishment or whatever. Like very, very subconscious. I didn't even hear it audibly. But as I paused and tried to breathe yesterday, it's that voice that came back in. It's like, man, you're in there. Like you are in there so hard. But as we're going through this prayer stuff, I'm trying to those voices are in there and they manipulate and taint how I see every different aspect of my relationship with God. And prayer is obviously a big piece of that puzzle.
Huge. Yeah. And so there's so to say, one of the factors is that prayer works and that God moves in response to prayer leads to 1,000 other questions of this sort. Here was one that we got in, and he gave me permission to read on air. Perhaps you'll get to this in the unanswered prayer episode soon, which is the one we were attending on doing today. But one of the topics I think surrounding prayer is not only if it works, but when was prayer actually influential? It seems to me that way too many people are claiming God's involvement in situations where the most likely scenario is simple cause and effect. And that goes to the question of the two families. Both families have a daughter who is sick. One heals, one gets healed, the other doesn't. That was our scenario that last week.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and that goes to the question of the two families. The child who was healed, was God involved in that recovery? Or was it that we have modern medicine, something that is a standing miracle, in my humble opinion? And statistically, any treatment that has success rate, and when you look at all the people who were healed or not in regard to sickness, this child's miraculous healing just falls within the historical success rate. So he's saying, hey, they play out scenarios of like cancer patients who this many will live this long, this percentage will live this long. And so one person fell into one percentage and the other person fell into the different percentage. I have a hard time. Oh, he said, I can get behind God's involvement in the world and the impact of prayer, but I have a very hard time accepting that anyone knows when God chooses to involve himself, except in the most exceptional situations. Do you have any thoughts around how to discern God's involvement or how to handle people who chronically claim God's involvement every time an outcome aligns with prayer? I think those people can be harmful and contribute significantly to the torment of why God didn't answer my prayer.
100%.
Right. Isn't that well articulated?
Yeah. So
the issue is, here's another issue. Let's say that the Bible teaches that prayer works. Okay. One question is, so I'm now paralyzed at the idea that I have to pray for everything or something bad could happen.
Right.
But another issue is, well, how would you actually know?
Mm-hmm.
And what do we do with people who just march around saying, well, God healed me, God did this, God did that?
Tune them out.
And so, right. And I thought, this is a question that my friend Tim Stafford is going to relate to.
Yes. Very much.
So I have a couple of thoughts, but I'm interested to see your thoughts about my thoughts.
Okay.
And then I will offer thoughts on your thoughts, and we'll just see how we do
We'll
this.
just daisy chain our thoughts down the.
Yes. So the first thing I want to say is my daily practice is to ask for things. I don't feel tons of pressure to ask for everything or to cover every exceptional circumstance. My practice is to pray the Lord's Prayer, and in those general sort of buckets, to then like under the like request to provide daily bread. I might include something about Seth's future and future care for him. And in the my kingdom, or your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I might include something about me being a husband that represents the kingdom of God well to my wife. And so that's kind of how I work. But I'm asking. I'm not at all ashamed or embarrassed to ask for things, or to even to share some of the deepest, darkest things that I'm feeling or whatever. I will say that I do not give God answer to prayer credit. There are a couple of scenarios where I have no other explanation. What I do instead is I give thanks for everything. So because God is like directly involved or indirectly involved. So indirectly involved could be the fact that God created a world where human agents are intelligent and grow into doctors. And here is a doctor who is skilled, and I was encountering this doctor and delighted that the treatment worked. What I'm not going to say there is that God's supernaturally involved himself in that. What I am going to say is, God, thank you for doctors that are great. Thank you for medicine. So what I do is I take James's admonition, every good and perfect gift comes from the Father. I just take that and I practice that all the time. I do not try to engage in the equation of, was this an answered prayer or not? Even if the outcome aligned with what I was praying for. So I give thanks regardless. So does that make sense? For just the moment, the calculus is impossible for reasons we're going to get into. So I disagree with people who, unless there is a very compelling reason, are walking around saying, yeah, God answers my prayers. Well, if they mean like indirectly he answers prayers, like I prayed for a house and there was a house that came on the market and it turned out to be great. Okay. Did God specifically have that house? And I don't know. And are there other people who are homeless who are praying for houses and he says no to? I'm not willing to say that. What I am willing to say, though, is, God, thank you for this house. And thank you for the ability for us to have purchased the house and to enjoy it. Thank you for that. I don't know if that was a direct causation or indirect causation. I just think all of that is utterly futile and way too complex for us to know if it was an answer to prayer directly, or if it was something that happened because we live in a world where God's goodness and grace and power and human beings still bear his image, where we just live in a world where there are cultural goods that happen. The fact that I can go to the grocery store, do I have to pray for daily bread? No, I go down and buy it, but I'm still thankful. Even under the terms of my agency, I'm still grateful for food because I don't grow food directly. Does that make sense?
And so, how does that form you as a person who's postured in a position of thankfulness, not in a position of
entitled or contractual agreements, or it shapes me completely. I ask. So that's why it's important. I do ask for answers to prayer. And there have been times when I actually am convinced that the prayer was answered. I think all prayers are answered, but I'm convinced that there are a couple of times where God actually intervened in surprising ways. But I don't talk about those, and I don't go around trying to apply that logic to other things that have happened. Those are truly exceptional circumstances. And I'll give you an example. There was a moment when I accepted Seth as he is. And I don't know, I think he was 9 months old. And I was so sad and bummed that he had Down syndrome. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant for our family. It felt claustrophobic. It felt scary. We had 2 other kids that were little. And I mean, life was super hard. And there was one night I was holding him, and this was after a friend, I think I've shared this part of the story, but a friend had said, "Hey, stop praying for Seth's healing." No, that was before he was born. This person said, "Stop praying for his healing. He's going to be a healer." But I was reflecting on that 9 months in, and I was holding Seth, and for some reason I just prayed, "Okay, Lord, I thank you for Seth. I don't believe that Seth handed him to us. Like he has a storehouse of, kids with Down syndrome. But I thank you. I receive him as gift. And my prayer is that he would be high functioning enough that he and I could talk about how beautiful you are together."
Mm-hmm.
Have I said this before?
I don't know.
And so every Sunday when he gets up, and the entire 11 o'clock service at our church cheers for him and receives him, and he leads the Shema with me, I'm just like, that's an answer to that prayer.
He's a healer.
He is a healer. He is a healer. And so I see that as a yes. Yes. And so I received that as a gift. Now, do I know? Would Seth have been different otherwise? I have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
So I'll never just say that. But there are a few things that I treasure in my heart, to use a biblical phrase, where I do think there was, like, I got caught in something that I'm utterly convinced was God's grace and not his judgment. I just am convinced, because it was multiple catchings. And it's like, it's been the most transformative thing ever. I think it does happen. And so I ask, but I don't think you can always explain it, particularly until years later, to say, no, I think God directly intervened. So on the one hand, I am totally sympathetic with this person. And I think God involves himself in human history through his people. Mm-hmm. I think there are exceptional times, but I don't know when those are. I don't know how to guarantee those, and I don't know always how to recognize them. So I don't let my heart go down that road. Instead, I thank him for everything that's good and true and beautiful. And that posture for me keeps me out of that headspace and moral calculus of whether or not I deserved it or whether or not it's changed from being outcome based to more relational. Hey God, may your kingdom come, may your will be done. This is what I think your kingdom coming looks like. And so I want that. And sometimes, maybe something like that happens or maybe not, but I'm not sure it's because of the fact that I prayed. Rather, I do think God answers all sorts of requests through the presence of the church. Like when people pray, like, God, would you comfort me? I think sometimes the answer to that prayer is through his people. So anyway, I don't want to go on more and more. I just think theologically, the calculus is such that we cannot know for sure and should be hesitant to announce that God answered this specific prayer and it would have been different otherwise. I think that is harmful.
Yeah. It's
so anyway,
Nostradamus.
Yes. Particularly when you look at what Paul and what Jesus pray for, versus what I pray for. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Jesus, we're doing a lot of walk-in, God. Can I get some of those pretty sweet sandals that so-and-so's got over there?
Seriously. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think I deconstructed with quotes before we had the terminology. I was wrestling through lots of stuff, more than a decade ago. And one of the things, as I've been trying to rebuild to understand how to posture in all of this stuff, is I consistently am looking for consistency from page 1 to the last page of the Bible. Like, where is God congruent? Where can I see the threads that go through that illuminate the person and illuminate how God sees the world, all that kind of stuff. So I'm always weighing things against God's own consistency or congruence all the way through, and just seeing and then weighing things I hear people say against that kind of stuff. Does this seem to go along with what I have learned about God, or does this seem to go against what I feel like I've been learning? And then I hold those things a little looser.
Yeah.
One of the things I really appreciate, I was talking to students about this other day, where they were talking about, just picking up the Bible and reading it from page 1 straight through. I was like, well, if you can do that, I've done that. But I don't know, but for what purpose? Are you just looking for some kind of like extreme illumination that's going to happen because you picked it up and opened it and you're just going through chronologically? Or I really appreciate the one that you put forward years ago that's just like, start in Matthew and write all your questions in the margins. Every little thing that you want to question, write it down. And when you finish it, go back to the beginning and do the same thing. And I think there's a curiosity in that, but there's also a humility and it's a posture of like, I'm going to be really honest with the things I don't understand, and that's okay. And those are foundational pieces to be able to learn and grow from. And so I really like that posture. So when I hear like, does prayer work? My brain instantly goes to, maybe, how do you define prayer? How do you define work?
Yep.
How do you define answered? All that kind of stuff. Like that's how I approach everything now. I just keep asking more and more questions.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know, I was praying even before we started this, because I've been so anxious because of how yesterday and this week have gone. I was like, I need my body to I need it to settle. And so I was praying to settle, and I was praying for like peace and for my heart to like kind of mellow out. But then what I'm doing while I'm doing that is I'm breathing. Like part of that focus of the prayer is causing me is to just take oxygen in slowly and release it slowly, and to like treat my body like the machine that it is, knowing what it needs in that moment. Now, prayer is what enabled me to slow down enough to do that, if that makes sense. Like,
of course.
So there was that
very
partnership.
Act of praying, the very act of praying is answering the prayer.
That's what I'm getting at. So like that I think there's a lot to that. And again, I was talking to someone the other night about just kind of when I was talking about how when things were breaking down, that I was like instantly into like, what sin do I have in my life that's caused God to break all my toys? And it's like an inverse of the incantation, because it's all magic. So prayer is like, can be these incantations of like, please, like if I say it like as you went through a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is me, I'm the one that says like, let me pray with these words this time, because these are more godly words, and God will hear, like as all the static of prayers is rising to heaven, God's like, oh, these are the words I've been looking for, so I'm going to give Tim what he's asking for. The rest of you keep trying. But he got the right order of the words, and because I think that's how I was taught.
Of course.
So, I don't know if God heals or doesn't heal. I have no idea. But I will take that daisy chain up to see how God has moved, what God has said, and then try to relate my prayers to that kind of stuff. And if that makes sense. So I'm trying to see the character of God in how I approach every aspect of everything. Period.
Yes.
And trying to understand that, because I know we have a role in that. I just am trying to really learn and inhabit what that role is.
What that partnership is. And that, so let's use your breathing example. That's a fantastic example. So you could have been not praying at all, and the same thing could have happened. You could have been practicing an entirely different religious orientation, and the same thing could have happened. Right? The fact that you're breathing, the fact that you're praying, the fact that you're attending to your breathing, right? So did God answer that prayer? So what I want to say is, I don't know, but thank you. But thank you. Thank you for my thoughts about you. Thank you that my breathing is slowed. Thank you. Now, when I'm saying thank you, I'm not assigning cause and effect there. That's not interesting to me.
Key.
It could be my own breathing that's doing it. But it doesn't matter. To me, that's not as important as experiencing God's good world as a world where I can taste peace, or I can slow my breathing, or I can enjoy the taste of something, or I can get over a cold, or like, I want to be that kind of person. I just don't go around assigning this happened because I was good, or this happened because I was bad. I think the Bible gives us no leg to stand on, as I'm going to be arguing, when it comes to that. Now, we can do natural cause and effect. Reaping and sowing is true, right? So when my dad, who smoked for 40 years, said, "Why do I have lung cancer?" I don't know. Maybe there's something there. And certainly in the text, there are times God's wrath looks like giving us over to the things that we're chasing. So there could be times when we can draw a cause and effect chain, but it's not because of what God's done. It's because of what we've done.
So, yes, that's if sin, under the definition, just working with this definition of missing the mark of being fully human, and what, like, so smoking would be an example of that, right? Like, I used to smoke. Like, there's you're choosing one thing and then your body gets latched onto it, but there are
sugar is a great example. Alcohol,
sugar's
great example.
All of everything. Like, so if sin is, so if my kids ask for something that they're more than capable of doing, or if they ask for something that I need them to do so that they learn something and they're more formed by it, I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to say, here's how you can do this thing because you need to learn this skill. So it's not a no, it's like a yes and or whatever.
Let's do it together. Yeah.
And so if sin is a way in which we're continually anti-forming ourselves into what we're supposed to be in our full humanity, then prayer that invites us to partake in it is formational to going back to what it means to be human.
Yes.
So I think that's how I'm approaching a lot of those things, like my anxiety peaking and my heart racing and all that kind of stuff. That is anti-human. It's bad for me. It hurts my body, and it hurts my mind. It hurts my soul. Participating in a prayer in which I'm also breathing, because I know the breathing techniques are things that can help de-escalate that and can regulate my body. That's human. That is a human thing that I need. But if God created us as humans and God gave us the tools to get back to what it means to be human, then that is an answer to prayer. But it's not God just calming my heart. It's God taking me by the hand saying, "No, this is how this works, and I want you to do it." Like, I want you to. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's what discipleship is, isn't it? It's
instead
of me asking God to do stuff, it's doing things with God so that I'm not egoistic. I'm not the one at the center of the conversation. I'm not trying to achieve glory for my own name, but I'm also active in the world because I have real agency and power.
Yeah.
And so that's where we get to the power of requesting, right? Seth has learned, he had to learn, he exercises power through asking and seeking and knocking. Now, as he's growing up, he exercises power differently because he can do things. Yeah. And there are times where it would be really deficient of me as a parent to do the things for him that he should be doing for himself.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think all of those dynamics are included. The big point I want to make is the idea of outcome is still driving that conversation.
100%.
Calculus. It's a yes because I was good. It's a no because I was bad. I have been off that train for a very long time. And now I just receive it all as gift. God, thank you that you care. Thank you that you're attentive. Thank you for breathing and lungs. Thank you for the wind and the sunshine. Like, I just want to be that guy. And so when flights are on time, I say, thank you. No, I'm not up there thinking that God arranged specifically for this flight
just
to be on time
route
because of me. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But I receive that as gift. And so anyway, for me, it's been so transforming because
stand up on the plane and say, "Hey, everybody."
Yeah, I prayed.
Share your peanuts with this guy.
But let me tell you, last 2 weeks ago, we had a mechanical issue, and I hate traveling. So anytime there's anything wobbly with a plane, I'm like, oh man. We had a mechanical issue. I was like, here we go. This is going to end up. I was ready to rent a car. I was like on the plane, ready to rent a car, whatever. And I prayed, God, I pray that there would be some dumb fix for this that would happen. And about 10 minutes later, there was a fix. I don't sit there and think that my prayer caused the fix to happen.
Yeah.
I just say, God, thank you. I'm so glad this got fixed. And so I do think prayers influence, but God doesn't override the free will of other creatures. So my prayers have also changed dramatically. Because if I'm an image bearer that God doesn't coerce, then everyone else is an image bearer that God doesn't
coerce.
That's
a whole different interesting
totally piece. So, all right, we are 55 minutes in. Give me 10 minutes to start and the next episode to finish. A big theological point that is disagreed upon, but has massive ramifications if it's true. And it's a point that we've looked at, that our friend Gambas has explored, that loads of scholarship sits behind. But there's also loads of scholarship that opposes this view as well. So why doesn't prayer work? Or why is it that we can't know if it works? Or why is it so complicated? Why is it a mystery? And the bad answers that I've heard and you have heard are things like, well, it must have not been God's will, or you didn't have enough faith, or God, I guess, needed another carpenter up in heaven, and so he took this person home. It was their time. All the dumb things that we say. So I want to beat up on the heart that wants to give a reason and say that theologically it's so complex that we have nothing to stand on, that the only right answer is I don't know. Why did God heal one and not the other? I don't know. I have no idea. Did God actually heal the one and not the other? I don't know. Was it just the doctor that was great on one and a bad doctor on the other? Not sure.
I don't know.
We have to get used to that and we receive the good as gift. That's it. My fundamental, and I've said this before, I'm sorry for the repetition. My fundamental theodicy is simply this. God is actually good. He's actually good. He's really good. He's, in fact, far better than what we could imagine. And with C.S. Lewis, that makes him more dangerous. If he were moderately good, if he were lazy, I mean, he would, but if he's actually for our flourishing, then he will oppose all that we do to self-deceive and self-destroy and dehumanize other people. Mm-hmm. Like we're fighting against him when we're doing these sorts of things. So I actually believe he's good. Secondly, I actually believe that evil is actual evil. Mm-hmm. It's not disguised good. Mm-hmm. God isn't needing evil to bring about lessons for his people. He's never needed evil to do his will ever. He's used evil to do his will, but he doesn't need it. And evil always is evil, always. And then thirdly, God is so good at bringing good from evil that sometimes we mistakenly think he needed the evil to bring about the good. Yeah. But he never does. So that is my theodicy, and I see all of that in Christ. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that this assumes, if you're going to say evil is really evil, one of the things this assumes is that God's will then isn't being done. There are other wills at work on earth other than God's. Now, for you and I think for some of us, that's a non-controversial statement. That's empirically verifiable and biblically faithful to say that. But for others who claim various levels of sovereignty, that is a controversial statement to make. Mm-hmm. And so what I wanted to do is just giving an example of this weird line. Well, it must not be God's will. So something bad happens to you. You pray that this person would be healed. And that person isn't healed. And then they come back and say, well, it must not be God's will. Like I remember my dad was withering away. So I don't know that it was lung cancer. It was colon cancer. I think it was colon cancer that ended up getting him. But as the cancer devoured him, 40 years of smoking obviously didn't help. Mm-hmm. And I remember some very well-meaning people coming in to my dad's hospital bed with me there who are sincere, great Christian folks, just saying, well, it must be God's will. And I mean, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, baloney. God's will is Genesis 1 and 2, Revelation 21 and 22. The rest is like triage. None of this is God's will. And so that began a theological adventure of, hey, is this really God's will? What's happening on the earth? Everything that happens is God's will for his glory, as some say. And the answer most certainly is no. And so I just want to give me 10 minutes on this, and we'll start it and we'll go into the rest of it, I think, next episode. Because we want to talk about prayer and God's will. So I want to go through a couple of texts that assume that God's will is not being done on the earth. Okay. Luke 7, Luke adds this parenthetical comment about the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. He says, all the people, even the tax collectors, when they heard Jesus' words about John the Baptist, acknowledged that God's way was right because they had been baptized by John. But the Pharisees and experts in the law rejected God's purposes for themselves because they had not been baptized by John. So God had purposes for them that they themselves rejected. So in this case, God's will was not being done. God's purpose was not accomplished. Correct? Mm-hmm. Isaiah 30. This is the prophets often denounce Israel for not trusting in Yahweh for their military protection, but rather make alliances, particularly with Egypt. Egypt was the one that they were always tempted to make alliances with. And then Egypt would burn them and leave them out to dry. So this is Isaiah 30. Woe to the obstinate children, declares the Lord, to those who carry out plans that are not mine, forming an alliance, but not by my spirit, heaping sin upon sin, who go down to Egypt without consulting me, who look for help to Pharaoh's protection, to Egypt's shade for refuge. So again, they make plans that are not my own, says the Lord. Or when we pray, as we will in the Lord's Prayer, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Why would we ask God for that if it was already God's will being done? And remember, heaven, in the Jewish perspective, God has a glorious future for his people, but the word for that is not heaven. The heavens, that's a reality that intersects with our current physical reality, but it's a reality that exists now and will exist forever, that where Yahweh rules and where Yahweh's will is done. And Jesus's triumph on earth established that authority was now handed to Jesus the Nazarene. So Jesus is kind of seated at the right hand of the Heavenly Father. The idea is that Jesus is now in the position of authority over that realm we call the heavens. The heavens are just the realm of God's dominion. Now, in one sense, it's all God's dominion, but specifically, this is the realm where God's dominion, where God's will is being done. And we don't have a lot of information about that. We've talked about before, the heavens just referred to the sky, and then it became a metaphor of being higher, being more important than lower. So God dwelt up there. Yeah. But the heavens, that's the new creation that is already beginning to exist. It's when the author of Hebrews says all the things we're doing on earth, like the temple, the tabernacle, those are just shadows of heavenly realities. So there's a whole other reality right now that exists along with this one, over which God is king. And so the prayer that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven assumes then that God's will isn't being done on the earth. Otherwise, why would we pray? I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. But there's even a deeper cut on this from the book of Hebrews. And in the book of Hebrews, now the book of Hebrews channels Psalm 8, which channels Genesis 1 and 2. So Genesis 1 and 2, human beings are made in the image of God to rule and reign. The psalmist gets a hold of that and talks about the ruling and reigning part, but uses words like glory and honor. Glory and honor are image-bearing words. And so when we talk about glory and honor and humans having glory and honor later in the text, this is a reference to Genesis 1 and 2. So here's Hebrews reflecting on Psalm 8. Psalm 8 is reflecting on Genesis 1 and 2. All right? So Hebrews chapter 2, it is not to angels that he has subjected the world to come, about which we are speaking. But there is a place where someone has testified. This is an ancient convention where everyone would know who you're quoting, but you would not quote them directly. You'd say, well, someone has said once. It'd be like me saying, someone said, I am your father. And you would know exactly who that is. There is a place where someone has testified, and then he quotes Psalm 8. What is mankind that you are mindful of them, a son of man that you care for him? You have made them a little lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor. There's that image language from Genesis 1. And put everything under their feet. So that's the rule part. And putting everything under him, the singulars and the plurals are really weird here. Mm-hmm. And putting everything under him, God left nothing that is not subject to him. Yet at present, we do not see everything subject to him, but we do see Jesus, who was made lower than the angels for a little while. In other words, he was human for a little while, or on earth for a little while, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by grace, the grace of God, he might taste death for everyone. Now that's a truckload of religious language, but here's the idea. The big point he's making is that Jesus, we were crowned with glory and honor as image bearers. We have since forfeit that role as image bearers. And it says, when he says, not everything is subject to him. So not everything in the world is manifest that Jesus is king and that Yahweh is Lord. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like the way that you would know that Yahweh was real and Yahweh was king is through his image bearers. When the image bearers give up that role and they image something else, some created thing, the world doesn't know that Yahweh is king. It assumes because image bearers are now elsewhere. So the point of Hebrews is saying we do see Jesus, who is now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death. So Jesus is the true human, is the idea. He's the true image. All right, so that's the big point he's making. But while he makes that point, he says, yet at present, we do not see everything subject to him. Yet at present, we do not see everything subject to him. The sentence is, in putting everything under him, God left nothing that is not subject to him. Yet at present, we do not see everything subject to him. So do you see the now and not yet?
Totally.
Everything is subject to Jesus, yet now we don't see everything subject to Jesus, which again makes the point that there is a reality where everything is subject to Jesus, and there is a reality where everything is not subject to Jesus, which for our purposes means prayer is really complicated because other wills are being done. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the assumption. And so there is no, we experience fallenness because sin and death, we're under a curse. I mean, it's hell breaking loose. It's when we sided with chaos entered back into God's good created world. And there are just parts of human life that aren't fair, that aren't right, that aren't good, that happen to people with no logic required other than we live in a fallen world. I mean, a dear friend of mine, when we found out Seth was diagnosed with Down syndrome, said, isn't it comforting to know that God gave you a child with Down syndrome to take care of? And it was one of the first arguments we ever had, because I was like, so God has a storeroom and he's just looking for good parents? What about all the parents that end up aborting kids with DS? Really? Or giving them up for adoption? Is that really what you want to say? Or can you say genetic defects happen and God will bring good out of them? They're not to be celebrated. They're to be mourned. And They could be celebrated down the road because of God's goodness manifested in them, but God didn't need the birth effect to bring about the good. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Are you with me? Is this making any sense whatsoever?
Yeah. It's complicated.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's complicated. I mean, and next episode we'll get into all of like the spiritual beings that are populating the whole Daniel 10 thing. I mean, you're like, what is going on? God does not bring evil into our lives. Not at all. We experience evil because we just encounter it in a fallen world. We do not have, when bad things happen, when you get overwhelmed with bills, you're not sitting under some random act of punishment. Right. It just sucks. It sucks sometimes. It just does, because we're in a fallen world. And as we'll see, there's an opposing side that is actively warring against God's purposes. So we just can't, back to the original question, we just cannot, with any degree of confidence, begin to pick out some sort of moral calculus that equates God answered this prayer, he didn't answer that one, and here's why.
Yeah.
Like we have to just,
it's not just that we can't do that. That's not what we're supposed to do.
Correct.
Like, it's just like we just keep trying to adhere to the same formula, but changing a few ingredients so that we can crack the code. But it's like you're cooking with the wrong ingredients to begin with. Like we need to see this in a much different framework.
Yes. But the big thing we want to beat up on is the idea that and there's a huge point to make. I'm hesitating because we're an hour 11 already. I'm hesitating diving into that.
So tune in next week.
I know.
Same bat time.
All 12 of you.
Seth, just get ready for next week.
So 3 examples in Luke, Isaiah, and in Hebrews, where it's just blatantly said, we don't see the will of God manifested in the world unless there are people who do his will. Otherwise, right? We're not seeing it.
That's the Mr. Rogers thing, right? That's the
look for the good people.
Yeah.
Well, that's the role of the church. Like Gambas did this big thing years ago during the pandemic where he was like, God isn't in control. And man, did that fire a whole lot of people up. And I don't even know that I would say it that way. His point is the Bible presents image bearing as the way that God's sovereignty is manifest in the world. And when the image bearers don't image God and they image something else, and God has to give them room to do that, or else they're not true image bearers, then God isn't managing all the outcomes, except for the one that matters most, namely new creation. But otherwise, like the moral calculus that just sits behind, well, did we do something? Like one of the first things I say to parents who have a child with special needs it's not your fault. You didn't deserve this, and it's not fair. And those are all true statements. And then I say, and you will be surprised at the journey you're about to go on. It will be harder than you think and better than you think. And all of that.
We have such rigid versions of like, I think my AirPods just died.
Uh-oh.
We have such rigid versions of what we think a human being is.
Yes.
And we do that too, where we're just like, hey, this is what it means. Like, I'm obviously right now we're like, it's white and whatever. And so we keep reforming what it means to be human, what it means to be Christian and all this stuff. And I feel like Jesus is constantly disrupt that and be like, nope. Like there's a lot of colors in the rainbow. There's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You guys are looking in the wrong direction.
That's right. And the role of the church is to bear witness to that reality.
Yeah.
Which
makes sense. I think it was St. Francis. I remember I was teaching on Easter. It was going through all the atonement theories. And there's a Franciscan one that was like, I may be butchering this, but at the core of it was that Jesus came not to change God's mind about humanity, but to change humanity's mind about God. And when I took that one step further as embodiments of that, what does it mean to change the world's understanding of God and God's role in the world, and how God sees the world, and how God acts in the world, and how God interacts with us. And then I look to how Jesus modeled that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense to me. Like, there's these degrees in which we are, like, what does it mean to be the hands and the feet in this world? There's a lot of implications as to what that could really mean.
Yeah.
And then when you take hands and feet to, like, don't pray on the corner, and then you see the Mr. Rogers thing of, like, people helping, and they're not doing it for notoriety and whatever. This is what I mean by, like, I start looking for those threads that seem congruent in God's character all the way through. And then I hold that congruency of character up against whatever I'm wrestling with, or whatever question I'm going through. Like, does this really look like the character of God? No. Well, then I'm going to hold it real loose.
Totally.
Or not hold it at all. Maybe I'll put it down.
Yep. That's good, man. And I mean, at the end of the day, friends, there's just a whole bunch of hairballs of mystery.
Hairballs of mystery.
But I think some attempts to penetrate that mystery result in pastoral malpractice, which is what our initial questioner was saying. 100%. So I want to reintroduce some of the things we can know for sure. So Jesus introduces God as Father.
Yep.
Jesus introduces prayer as covenant partnership akin to a child and a parent. So I want to take him at his word on those things. But then, like with parents, we try to figure out, well, what words can I use to get the thing that I want? And so we're then tempted to regress into voodoo or performing. And so it's at that point, I want to keep reintroducing mystery, because to say something evil happened and it's God's will, nope. There are lots of other wills going on the planet. Yeah. We're going to do more work on that.
Buckle up.
Yeah. So anyway, friends, thank you for the pushback, the clarification, all the things. We're so stinking grateful. We hope you have a great day. When you get this, it will be November, which means my Christmas decorations will be beginning to go up. Tim and I, it would be tough for us to live together, because the weekend where they turn the lights off in the universe and it's getting dark at 4 is when I say, nope, let there be light. And so I love those first couple of months of just dark are too much. So I bring
on the dark. I've got lights up right now. They're orange and purple.
Of course you are. How long?
And a ton of spider webs.
How long will those stay up?
Well, tomorrow morning I have to get up at 6 a.m. and drive 2 hours to a soccer tournament all weekend. So it'll be into November before I am able to even get up and take things off.
And is there any shape or form of Christmas decorating? I mean,
no my wife loves Christmas.
I'm talking about you, Tim, and your heart.
No.
Okay. Do you help? Do you care?
This was my Christmas. No, I do. I hang up all the lights and all the wreath.
Okay, only because she does. What would you do by yourself?
I would just slowly transition to Nightmare Before Christmas, and
there it is.
Just leave the same stuff.
It just.
This is Christmas, folks. Here's a hat on top of Jack Skellington, and
yes, oh, perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. If you're still here, we love you. Bye.
Happy Halloween. Thank you for listening to this conversation. The Voxology Podcast is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is made possible by listeners just like you. If you'd like to partner with us, you can do so at patreon.com/voxologypodcast or on Tithely, tithe.ly, and just search Voxology Podcast. Links for both are in the show notes and on our website. You can interact with the hosts on Facebook /Voxology Podcast or on Instagram at Voxology Podcast and on Twitter or X, whatever it is, at Mike Erie. Thank you for walking this long road with us.